Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Brother Pierce, for that kind introduction. I'd like to thank the members, the congregation, the deacons, Pastor Pierce, the choir. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to come speak to you today. I'd also like to thank Mr. Willie Williams for accompanying me here today, and you'll be blessed by his singing here shortly. My name is Kevin Jacobs, and I'm standing before you today as a candidate for probate judge of Marengo County. I'd like to ask for just a few minutes to introduce myself and tell you a little bit of my background and who I am and why I chose to make this decision. First of all, I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior when I was 12 years old. I've tried to foster a relationship with Him since then, tried to get into the Word and to know Him, and God has blessed me with more than I deserve. And every one of my accomplishments that I may mention today are direct blessing from God. I'm the third generation of my family to call Marengo County home. My cousin Tony Jacobs worked and retired from Gulf States paper, grew up in Providence, Alabama, and raised his 3 daughters with his wife Susan. My Aunt Carol Huggins lives in Providence also, and she works at the office of the Marengo County Nursing Home. My daddy's daddy was Otto Jacobs. He came to Marengo County in the late 30s, drawn here by the pine trees that still dominate the landscape around us. He was a short wooder, he was a pulpwooder, and he cut pulpwood until he was 72 years old. He was a tiny, strong little man that knew nothing but hard work. And he had 13 kids, and the third youngest was my dad, Kenneth Jacobs, who 35 years ago built a house about a half mile from the church here, and that's where I was born and raised. My dad grew up in Rimbert Hills, working with his daddy in the woods and helping his mama Christine with chores around the house. His first job outside of his home was here in Linden at the Piggly Wiggly, which later became Foodland, and he was just a teenager when he took that job. Shortly after high school, he was fortunate enough to get on at Gulf States Paper Corporation in Demopolis and retired last January with almost 41 years in service to them. Now, my mama's daddy was Don Driggers, and he brought his wife and Sarah and their 2 children to Marengo County in 1953. My Papa Driggers worked with New York Life for almost 35 years and felt that by providing people with life insurance, he was doing a real service to his community and his neighbors. His oldest daughter, Donna, is my mother. She spent over 15 years as the associational secretary here with the Bethel Baptist Association, and for about the last 20 years, she's been a tax practitioner with her office at her house, and her focus is on church finances and pastoral tax returns. And I've kind of given you a lengthy explanation of my family history to explain that my work ethic has been passed down to me through my daddy from a man that cut pulpwood until he was 72. And the love for my community was taught to me by a man that dedicated his career to helping people. Now, chores around the house were my parents' classroom on teaching me how to work. I learned early that raking the yard without gloves would give you blisters, and that the weed eater will run out of gas at the furthest point away from the gas can that it will, so that you have to make that trek twice. I began cutting grass on my own at 12 years old, and by 14 I had 27 yards here in town, and had upgraded my equipment from a push mower and a broom to a riding mower and a gas-powered blower. I maintained that company for almost 15 years while going to school and working other jobs, and sometimes even worked alongside Mr. Frank Lewis and his son Anthony when the rainy season hit and the grass was just growing too fast for all of us to cut it. Now, I graduated high school in '91, and I moved to Tuscaloosa to pursue a college degree. And while there, I wasn't as focused as I should have been, and I learned all the ways how not to graduate. If I had been listening, I probably could have heard God screaming at me, what do you not understand about thou shalt not? But He probably wanted to choke me. My dad definitely wanted to choke me. But
My God.
it was short. It wasn't too long after moving to Tuscaloosa. I moved back to Linden, moved back home. It was 1997, and that's the year that I met my beautiful bride on New Year's Eve. And, it's just something how I didn't graduate the first time at college, which was my plan, but then to see God's plan unfold has been eye-opening, because moving back home, being defeated, moving back home, not having my degree, went to work at One Stop Building Supply in Demopolis. But like I said, was fortunate enough to meet my future bride on New Year's Eve of 1997. And she would later become the mother of my two children, Jake and Wesley Lee. My wife's name is Madeline. She's a member of the Rankin family from Fawnsdale, and we actually met on Cedar Crest Farms in Fawnsdale on a cold December night 14 years ago. We were married in 2000, just a few months after I had the opportunity to go to Gulf States and follow in my father's footsteps to go to work at the paper mill. But it was within my first year there, we became pregnant with my first child, Jake, and I began watching some of my coworkers who were parents who were trying to deal with the shift schedule and with the week of 3 to 11 and trying not to miss their child's events, and sometimes they were successful, sometimes they weren't. That's when I made up my mind that I did not want to have to deal with that. And so I committed myself to go back to school at the University of West Alabama while I kept my job at the paper mill. While working a full-time swing shift schedule in operations, got to know Deacon Bell very well on some long midnight shifts. But while working that swing shift schedule at Gulf States, I was able to graduate and obtain my degree, and I graduated cum laude from UWA in 2004 with a Bachelor of Business Administration, concentration in accounting.
We tell you, Kevin.
And my career in finance began. I've had a couple of other jobs outside of ThyssenKrupp since then, but currently I'm the General Ledger, Insurance, and Risk Manager with ThyssenKrupp Stainless in Mobile County. That's the German steel mill that chose Alabama. They chose Alabama to build a $5 billion carbon and stainless steel mill, and I've been fortunate enough to be with that project since the beginning. Some of my responsibilities are financial reporting to the Board of Directors, foreign currency hedging, and risk management. And then outside of my normal duties as a leader in the finance department, I've also been the project lead on automating the expense reporting for all of ThyssenKrupp Stainless USA, which is about 900 employees. And if successful, this project will be implemented in other TK companies around the world, which is about 178,000 employees.
Wow.
And after months of programming and testing, my team and I went live with the project in March of 2011, and through the first 9 months, it's been an overwhelming success. And we've actually got meetings set up in January with 2 sister companies to begin implementation at their sites. And that is my career background. Now this is my first time to seek public office, and it kind of gives me an interesting perspective on how Peter felt stepping out of the boat, stepping into the unknown, having to step out on faith, because this is a totally new road to me. But after I was asked to consider it, spent hours in prayer, spent hours bending my wife's ear, talking to her late nights, her trying to get sleep, but decided that we felt led to give it our best shot. And one of the defining moments that really made me commit to this was when Judge Nielsen told me that whoever holds the position of probate judge needs to really have a heart for the community. And my heart's always been in community service. Like I said, my granddaddy Driggers taught me that. In the past, I've given time and energy to the Bethel Baptist Builders, which are a local group here in Marengo County. We dedicate a week each summer to going somewhere that we've felt led to go to help build a church from the ground up. I've been fortunate enough to be a part of 5 church building projects in 2 different states, and then dozens of smaller projects associated with the Bethel Builders. I was a member of Linden's Wildwood Festival back in 1999 and 2000. I was a founding member of the Demopolis Civitan Club, and through the Civitan Club, we were able to have several projects where we helped people. One of them where we even built a handicap accessible front porch on a man's house after a horrible car accident had bound him to a wheelchair for life. I have been an active member with Volunteering for Christmas on the River and with the United Way Day of Caring. And I've always volunteered my time and talents because I enjoy helping others, and it's something that we're called to do through the Word of the Bible. Now, the position of probate judge can best be described as an administrator of assets, and I feel that my accounting degree, paired with years of experience in my profession, have prepared me for such a position. Graduating with honors while working full-time at Gulf States is an example of what I can do when I focus my energy and my talents on a goal, and it's this level of focus and energy that I'll apply to learning the probate law the same way I've learned the laws governing financial reporting. I have been a part of successfully guiding the finances for ThyssenKrupp, which is the largest capital project in that company's 200-year history. And I want to bring those lessons I've learned for working for one of the world's largest companies back home to Marengo County. In Luke 16:10, Jesus says, "Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much." And I've always tried to live my life by that direction and with honor, and I'd appreciate the chance to prove that I can be a good steward for you and our community. When I have run the race that's laid out for me, there's nothing I desire more than to hear my Lord.
Praise God.
I'm sorry. Tell me, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." And to see him as Stephen saw him in Acts as the stones began to fall, standing at the right hand of God. Amen. I appreciate your consideration and your hospitality. Thank you for this warm reception as a guest in your church, and thank you for allowing me the time to introduce myself to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Woo!